Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm here.
This is Seeking Me Productions, bring you another TV anime review. And we're living in an era where a lot of mangas, they are becoming a lot more shorter in length and revolve to more shorter running anime as well. Long are the days where a long running anime like One Piece or Naruto, Bleach was the major heyday. Basically keeping the anime business afloat.
I mean, it's not to say that having a shorter run is a bad thing, especially if you're actually able to wrap up your storyline in an effective manner. Because certain times when you want to have it as long as those ones, and God forbid anybody's as long as One Piece. It can feel like it's dragged out, or just unnecessary plot developments come around, which muddies the entire event. But then vice versa, you can have an anime that feels entirely too short. But in this particular case, for Fire Force,
I would say for what we have, it falls somewhere in the middle. So Fire Force is an anime based off the manga by Atsushi Ohkubo, who is also known for another manga story that was previously adapted by Studio Bones' Soul Eater.
Now, when we first saw this anime, especially because of the art direction, it immediately had us thinking, is this some form of a tie-in with the original story that was made? Of course, it had its own unique flavor and definitely had its unique twists and turns in that in the world that Fire Force was trying to make. But eventually, it did get revealed that it definitely is a tie-in of some sort. A tie-in, not even just of some sort. It pretty much is.
It says like you'll see by the series end, you'll see some where the connections lie.
Exactly.
But the difference between the anime Soul Eater, that was made from Studio Bones. This was made from a different studio, David Productions. David Productions, mostly known for the JoJo Bizarre Adventure adaptation.
This Fire Force, this story basically centers itself in a world in which individuals are fighting against a concept known as spontaneous human combustion. A concept that even for me is still like, I even look at that side eye, because that is definitely one of my top 10 fears in the world. Just catching on fire or combusting, yeah, that's creepy in and of itself. So having an entire story that centers on that concept was interesting to say the least.
Mm-hmm. This is a post-apocalyptic story, actually. Like after an event called the Great Cataclysm.
That basically meant that the world was being set on fire in certain respects, and that individuals were trying to run and hide and try to survive this climatic event. They did, of course, and then in this new reality, they had to create this unique stand guard that was able to protect and serve the people against this big, event. And in this case, they could develop what is called the Fire Force Company. And these individuals, very much like firefighters today, fight the fires that appear within the world. But unlike firefighters using water, no. The Great Cataclysm came along with this unique situation where certain individuals also gain pyrokinetic abilities.
And they are they differ based on what generation you was born in after the event taking place. Now, a lot of refugees around the world, they are very scarce because of not very few land masses exist. Like most animes, this takes place in Japan, and mainly for Japan being one of the major refugee hubs in this new world. They got upper hand with survival mainly due to the a fictional corporation, Hajime Industries, in which they developed basically a power source known as Amaterasu. And a lot of the secrets that hold with the creation of the Hajime Industries and the Fire Force being so prevalent is what made the main stories and mysteries start unfolding.
But where did this story center itself? Who is the anchor of this vehicle? And that we find in the character known as Shinra.
Shinra Kusakabe. I would say from the anime, and the series, like the story is very similar in tone of like Soul Eater. If you're familiar with the story, it takes is very set in a very dark premise, but it kind of plays with it in ways very quirky or offbeat and off kilter in ways. I would say that as opposed to oddly enough, where Soul Eater was like very much on tempered and on steroids on the anime.
Mm-hmm.
This one it does more. It issues a lot more suggestive subject matter. I'm not really certain that this show, the story,
Handled
appropriately because of this very weird tone in which they decide to go by.
This show goes into a territory that is pretty much reserved for particular animes that deals with post-apocalyptic or world-changing events. To a lesser degree, came to be known as like the Gainax group, where certain developments in the plot spirals into situations that are beyond belief or so weird and so outlandish that it almost feels as though it's either A, punking you, or B, it's like they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at a situation.
For the first 2 seasons, I would say it maintained a very solid narrative, especially a solid narrative that it didn't rely so much on you knowing where it was eventually heading towards.
It really centered itself on Shinra trying to win the trust of the people or his fellow comrades because of the events that happened in his childhood, dealing with the death of his mother and the abduction or sort of death of his younger brother in a spontaneous combustion situation, and then having to work with the Company 8 that he's assigned to in trying to figure out the leads that will reveal the reasons behind spontaneous combustion in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. We're getting like seeing a lot of fantastical concepts of Adola board bursts, of connections with certain individuals who has these power kinetic abilities that we see. The main antagonists being
the white clad and how they're almost like a death worshipping cult who centers in on the concept of wanting to create a second sun here on Earth.
Mm-hmm. And by series end, just like speaking of the Gainax ending, it gets like the entire 3rd season is part of the reason why I find a lot more of the criticisms at play here. Because a lot of the subject matter that we did discuss that we kind of have weird feelings towards, I'm pretty sure this anime didn't necessarily adapt all of the, they did adapt the manga like from start to finish, but I feel as though they skipped over chapters that would have felt out some of the nuances that they were trying to go for.
Yeah.
It mainly feels like that in the last season that was produced. Like, you don't expect this show to be like a heavy anime drama like someone with Fullmetal Alchemist or Pluto or Freywind is doing. But it like for the show to even try and dare to do these high subject matters, it felt more like shock and awe.
Yeah.
Than something that's more genuine. Just because you want to be like somewhat edgy. A lot of the appeal does come with the characters. Shinra Kusakabe, main character, burdened with the past of basically being ostracized mostly in his earlier years because him being a supposed more orphan, people actually kind of blames him for his what happened to his family. Because him being a sole survivor added to the point that his own physical features of him looking like a devil of some sort kind of off-putting for some of society.
Yeah.
He does eventually have this found family sense when working with Company 8 and showing off having his character development being such growing a self-worth. Him trying to, and also the path of once he finds out more about his family, and mostly towards like in the first season, once he gets wind of his brother being alive in a ways, his brother being Sho, a lot of his focus is his renewed interest in life is trying to come back to like reunite with his brother.
I wish, especially on his brother's point of the storyline, I wish that we had a lot more moments with him to be able to to really dive deep into that struggle that would have came from having to be separated, and then the realities of them being on two separate sides of this conflict that's emerged in their world and with each other.
It feels more of his character development as happens off screen.
It really needed another season, or really honestly 2 more seasons, really just to to flesh out those character dynamics, because I feel as though the shit that he gets is quicker than he honestly should have been earned.
The character who comes close to a second lead will be the character of Arthur.
Yeah. With Arthur, on one hand, is like he's almost just the joke relief character, but on the other hand, they also, because of the dynamics they try to introduce with his storyline and his connection to the Kusakabe.
He's like the usual shonen rival character.
Mm-hmm.
His whole shape, his personality is based on the Knights of King Arthur tale, medieval situational realities, and
but also center on this obvious mental illness that is run with that character because of this delusions that deals with the King Arthur effects.
There is a heavy situation that clearly should have been handled a lot more empathetically than how the show deals with it.
And it centers mostly on Arthur's upbringing, and I feel as though if they dropped the ball when it came to how they handled Arthur's relationship to his family.
Arthur and Shinra, they also share a friendship with another character who's not from Company by the Ogon.
I mean, first of all, I'm going to give a shout out for the fact that the creators even gave that character that name, considering that Ogun's character's name is derived from an African god. And they do emphasize some of those elements within his character in the show and for the manga. But
I feel like he feels like he could have easily been should have had more presence, mainly due to his personal connections with Shinra's past.
Yep.
He comes in like in very few specific moments in each season. It's a shame that his character does not have a lot of screen time. I do appreciate the captain of Captain Obi, despite the fact that he's a captain of this fire force with a bunch of people who
have these
abilities,
crazy abilities.
He doesn't. He was never born with it, and he finds that he has this unique way of going about leading his troops, but with strong leadership skills. It's understandable. Characters I think have more clear arcs. Character of Bidimaru.
Absolutely loved him.
Like he's a shy. Like talk about someone who's presented like the strongest of the fire force companies at times, but yeah, his demeanor is very chill. He's a person who understands the realities of the world at B.
He wants to be detached, but he knows that deep down in his heart, he cares too much, and he wears everything on his sleeves. And he is that type of individual that will shoulder the burden because he knows he can handle it.
He's becoming more of a mentor figure down the line for Shinra.
One of the best. One of
the better teacher characters in anime, especially modern. Character of Joker, who's this somewhat anti-hero. I would say a mixed bag. I like his personality,
and I like some of the stuff they introduced him in the earlier parts, but then again it just
handles his past. It even goes even more towards more of the darker situations. That
it almost feels like they kind of cut away from it because they realized they really couldn't go that far.
And even after once that his dark past is revealed in season 2, he's barely in the last season for it.
And that's crazy.
For when they actually have any, he doesn't really does anything in season 3.
No, we're not at all. One of the major antagonists, the character of Hamea, I really liked her in theory, but then I just like this season's the most that she did at all. But it's also feels like when they did it, it's also didn't feel like it was a lot earned.
The White Clan in general has a better concept as a villain, as an antagonistic group. There are certain members of the White Clan that were effective as antagonists, I will admit, but not the main threats. Like we got seasons 1 and 2 very close to each other, and season 3 you had to wait.
Yeah,
this very long because the manga. But even then, it was it's a sharp distance. There is a difference in quality.
Yeah,
in production.
I feel as though the quality of production that was in the first 2 seasons definitely dipped.
Visually stunning. Very fire effects, very unique ways of how they portrayed it.
I really like what they were doing with pyrokinetics. I feel so this is probably some of the most unique stuff that anybody has done with the concept of controlling or manipulating fire.
The standout aspect to the production is most definitely the sound design. Actually,
you feel every flamethrower, every hard hitting explosion. Because of the way that the sound effects work, it feels like it's actually really going on. That the weight behind each of the characters' moves is there.
Sho did come with the character of Shinra's brother Sho, with how he depicts his ability. Ogun actually has one of the better fights in season 2. Music, on the other hand, I'm not the actual music that you hear on this show. I don't necessarily nothing worth noting.
It's serviceable.
Even though the opening and ending songs are good, the visuals behind them they kind of lack in creativity, and sometimes they out of sync with the music at times. Yeah, very mixed bag. But they're the series, and I will say, the destination is solid. A decent start, but very messy the journey near the end.
Yeah.
Most. Fortunately, as of right now, I actually would probably say that Fire Force is an okay series.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't disagree with that. I feel as though what this this anime truly can do though for us in this particular production, please, because the way it ended, I need Soul Eater to come back.
Now, it's the question on whether or not David Productions should be the studio to redo Soul Eater. I feel as though David Production, they mainly are focused on JoJo. Especially since they're working on JoJo's reboot as the time of this video. So
at the end of the day, I don't really think they should be. Yeah, Bones need to be the one to handle.
Go back to Soul Eater.
Yeah. But that's it. That's our review for Fire Force. Were you a fan of the series? Or are there aspects, if you read the manga, that you feel as though they definitely should have put into the anime to help us, to help everybody else, grapple with what the subject matters that they were trying to handle and deal with? Are y'all with us on the Soul Eater train that they need to just go ahead and just make that a green lit?
And take your time with it.
Please do. Yeah, don't mess up. We've been burned before with countless other productions out here that claim they wanted to bring it back to anime that everybody wants to see, and then when they do it and execute it, the execution is horrible. So please don't do that for Soul Eater. Just like Fullmetal Alchemist got its credit and its flowers and its due, do that for them.
And so that was a review for Fire Force. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe and comment below, and also follow us on those social media outlets of Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd for all the things that we don't necessarily post on this channel.
See you later.
See you.